Hi horror family, and welcome back to another Scream for Horror video. Today we will be discussing sad and vengeful tales of tragic lovers, and we hope you enjoy it. Have you ever wondered what the Rage and Rain productions mean? Stay tuned because soon you will find out. But before we start, please don't forget to give this video a thumbs up and subscribe for more upcoming creepy and scary content. These are 5 bone-chilling tales of ghostly brides. Dare to say I do? Most young women often dream of achieving goals such as having a successful career, becoming a fantastic mom, among other things. But in reality, the number one thing that they have in mind, most of the time, is meeting the one and walking down the aisle on the special day with the one you love. But sometimes life throws surprises at us, and what happens if that day never comes? What if tragedy strikes? Either you move on with your life, stay stuck in some never-ending cycle of self-destruction, or take revenge in your own ghostly hands and haunt these places or people for eternity. Number 1. The Headless Bride of Yellowstone Park. Back in the days, if you were wealthy and came from a prominent family, you were supposed to be married to a gentleman of your same social status. There was a bride who we would call Susan. She was a rebel at heart. Even though she came from a prosperous and powerful shipping family, she refused to marry the man that was appointed by her parents. Instead, she decided to marry a servant who we would call Ralph. Together, they decided to get married despite her parents' disagreement and regardless of their wishes. They often warned her about Ralph's intentions and how he was only interested in their money. Being a stubborn young woman, she thought her parents were doing this out of retaliation for not marrying the man they initially wanted for her as a husband. To avoid scandals and rumors, her father decided to give them both a lump sum of money after the wedding to go away as far as New York as possible and never be seen or heard from them again. She thought this decision was for the best and accepted the offer without a problem. Unfortunately, by the time the newlyweds arrived at the Old Faithful Inn in Yellowstone, her new husband had gambled away all their valuables. There was just a little left, enough to pay up for the rest of their honeymoon, but not enough for them to build or buy a house or even to eat. Susan was upset with her new husband, and they both fought about the situation throughout their honeymoon. Soon realizing her parents were right, Susan was devastated to finally find out the truth. But still, they needed money to survive, and of course to pay the rent at least where they were staying. Thinking she could explain the situation, she decided to swallow her pride and phone her father to ask him for money, which he utterly refused. That night the couple fought, yet like never before. Ralph, storming out of the room, left the bride alone and locked up at the inn. When Susan didn't come out of her room in days, and there was no sign of Ralph anywhere around, the staff at the inn decided to check in on the poor bride, only to be found by the housekeeper after an awful smell emerged from the bathroom, where she lied in a pool of blood with her head gone. Only her stump and cold body left behind to rot. There was no sign of her head anywhere in the room. When the authorities showed up to locate the murderer, they never found one, and Ralph was never apprehended. The whole thing was covered up to avoid scandals by her parents, so her murderer was never found. Days later, up at the Crow's Nest, where musicians often played, the severed head of a bride was finally found. Her blonde curls stained of dried blood, her wide eyes filled with fear, and her face showing a twisted grin. Now, people who happen to stay at the inn still report appearances of a headless woman glowing in a white dress with her head tucked under her arm. Number 2. La Pascualita, the beautiful bride of Chihuahua. At the corner of Victoria and Ocampo in Chihuahua, Mexico, sits a famous bridal boutique named La Nacional. Aside from having everything available for the bride-to-be, you cannot miss the main attraction at the shop's window display. There stands a beautiful mannequin wearing a bridal gown in all of its glory. Except she is like no other. At first glance, La Pascualita seems to notice you, and you suddenly start to get a feeling like her eyes are following you around like an old painting. But if she happens to smile at you, then you are one of the lucky ones that have had the pleasure to witness a smile from her. The story goes that on a typical day back in the 1930s, owner Pascualita Esparza brought the mannequin over from Paris to her shop. As soon as she went onto display, she immediately started to draw the attention of other people in town. Initially named Chonita, soon after people started to call her La Pascualita, thanks to the resemblance she had with her owner, and the name stuck ever since. Sometime after her arrival, small things started to happen. People claimed that she would follow them with her sight, while others claimed that the mannequin had actually smiled at them. It wasn't until after her owner's death in 1967 that those strange occurrences got even worse. Several employees of the shop had suddenly quit, since they had claimed that every time they would change her gown, they would see small little red veins popping from her eyes and also from her legs and arms, like if she were to be alive. Others have stated that they have seen her climb down from her pedestal and actually walk around the store at night. Through the years, many others have speculated that she's actually the preserved embalmed corpse of the owner's daughter who passed away the day of her wedding day, tragically bitten by a black widow spider or a scorpion. With realistic-looking features, most people walk away convinced that she has to be real, while others think that it has to be a marketing campaign to gain publicity. True or not, is without a doubt an extraordinary and creepy tale. On October 20th, 2017, beer maker company Victoria and the Legends Hotel in Mexico took the Pascualita out of her native Chihuahua for the first time since she had arrived for a special event where they displayed and showcased a 10-episode miniseries of various famous Mexican urban legends. Upon her return, the people of Chihuahua were outraged to find out that a similar Pascualita was brought back instead of the original beloved icon. To this day, the shop refutes these accusations and insists that it's the same Pascualita that has always been. But you check the picture and be the judge. Some others claim that she was even bought by a private collector, but this we will never know. Number 3. The Ghost Bride of Cumberland Falls. Cumberland Falls State Park near Corbin, Kentucky, is home to some of the most beautiful waterfalls and walking trails up in the mountains the nation has to offer. But it is also home to the famous Cumberland Bride. She has been appearing in the park since the late 1950s. There's even an area named in her honor, known as Lover's Sleep. The story starts off with a young couple who had married that same day. They came to the falls to celebrate their honeymoon. Excited about the happy day, the couple decided to go for a walk. Her beloved husband wanted to take pictures of the breathtaking views as well as his blushing new bride. She decided she wanted a picture with her long and beautiful dress and wanted the falls as her back scenery. Climbing near a hill close to the edge of a cliff, dancing and excited about her newfound marriage that sadly came to an end when she lost her balance and slipped off the edge, landing below and hitting herself in the head. The current was too strong for her husband, and sadly her body was washed away. Ever since her death, people have reported seeing a young woman in a white wedding dress at the top of the cliff. She manifests more on a day called the Night of the Moonbow. The moonbow is a rainbow produced by light reflected off the surface of the moon. Cumberland Falls is the only place in North America where a moonbow can predictably be seen. At the same time, her figure can be seen dressed in her white gown rising out of the waters when this happens. Number 4. The Vengeful Bride. This certain tale tells the story of a young and highly attractive woman. As much as she was beautiful, she was kind and loving at heart. She was courted by many gentlemen out there, but she was not prepared to be in a relationship until she found her one true love. Several years passed, and still, to her luck, she had not found him. Yet she still kept herself young and pure beyond her years. One day, as she was taking an afternoon walk, she stumbled upon a strange man, and they instantly fell in love. A few months passed, and the news broke about their engagement, and the whole town was invited. Some people went as far as to warn her not to marry the stranger since he was an out-of-towner, and no one really knew much about him, not even herself. But she didn't care, and she proceeded with her formal. The big day finally arrived, and the beautiful bride was centered at the altar, waiting for her love to anxiously arrive. 5, 10, 20, 30 minutes passed by like clockwork, and still no sign of her fiancé. Finally, After a few hours of waiting and with her heart broken, she left the church and locked herself up in her home. The following day, people claimed to have heard her crying and shouting loudly, that she vowed revenge against her fiancé for leaving her without a reason. They found her a few hours later with a knife in her chest, among many cuts to her beautiful face, and holding a crucifix. Word got around that they saw her so-called fiancé in a neighboring town at a local bar with several women, claiming proudly to have had the woman that no one was able to before, and that he had left her at the altar since he wanted no commitment. Soon after that, a few days later, people found him right outside the same church he was to be married, with a knife through his heart and a wedding ring on his finger, the same ring she was buried with. Did the bride come back to accept her revenge, or was it pure coincidence? Number 5. The Bloody Bride of 13 Curves Road. 13 Curves Road is widely known due to the tragedies that have built up throughout the years, especially those of recently married couples who have met their demise while on it. There are many stories of lovers who have lost their lives while driving through the treacherous road, but one in particular stands out above the rest. Yet again, on a dark and gloomy night, a couple was driving through Centerville Road, which is part of 13 Curves, while discussing their plans for their future. Suddenly, the groom lost control of the vehicle and started to spin out of control and ended up in a creek, killing them both instantly. Ever since the night of the tragedy, people have reported seeing a ghostly bride with glowing eyes, sometimes with her dress covered in blood, while others have witnessed her apparition with a bright orange lantern, wandering aimlessly all alone. At times, she's seen just standing there, sometimes at the hills of the road, and in other cases, there's been witnesses that claim that she's actually leaping towards the cars passing by, making them lose control and crash. There are several variations and counts of the story, but in the end, it seems like the bride is still looking for her long-lost love. Do you think these lovers will reunite in the afterlife, or are they simply destined to be apart for the rest of eternity? If you have a ghostly experience, a close encounter, or want to share any photos or videos of strange phenomena, feel free to send us an email to screamingforhorror@gmail.com, and your story could be featured in one of our future videos. Be sure to give this video a thumbs up and share it with your friends. Subscribe and follow us on our Facebook page for more. And remember, until next time, sweet screams.